Hi, I'm Jo from Jo's Country Junction, and I'm welcome to my sewing room. I am here for an episode of Sew with Jo. We're using our scraps again today, and I'm doing somewhat of a sew along. Some of you might have seen the latest issue of Quiltmaker Magazine. They have this quilt in the magazine. Maybe here's a better picture of it. And they call it Piccadilly Circus. And it's actually a quilt that I designed and was originally published in the magazine back in 2018. And they republished it, and I didn't know about it, but somebody, a blog reader of mine, contacted me and said, hey, you didn't tell us that you were published somewhere. Well, it's because I didn't know. The magazine didn't tell me. And I was surprised. So anyway, it's in the magazine. I have a copy of the old magazine, but the instructions and everything is the same. And I thought I might host a little bit of a sew along. And some of you who want to sew along with me, you're certainly welcome to. I'm going to tell you that when I designed this quilt, I didn't do anything using a paper piecing method, and that's how the magazine wrote the instructions. So what happens is a designer designs a quilt, they send it to a magazine for publishing. Usually the designer has to write some kind of rough directions, and then the magazine takes those and they completely rewrite new directions. And they sometimes make them way different than the designer ever used them. Sorry, you can hear my dogs in the background. For instance, like one thing is I make my flying geese usually with the flip corner method. And whenever I submit something to a magazine, that's not always the method that they use. Or if I make I don't make flying geese the 4 at a time way, but sometimes the company that's writing the pattern, they will write it using the make 4 at a time flying geese method. So we're just gonna do it my way, and if I did it the way the magazine does, then I probably wouldn't be able to shoot this video with you. But being I have my own method of doing this, I can share this with you, and I hope that you will enjoy following along as we make this quilt that the magazine calls Piccadilly Circus. I made this as a baby gift, and then I gifted it, and I just loved it. And I ended up submitting a picture of it to the Quilt Magazine, and they liked it. So then I had to remake another quilt of it. So this will be my 3rd time making the quilt. And I guess they say 3rd time's the charm. And for the 3rd time, I finally figured out that I should probably invite you to sew along with me. So that's what we're doing today. I did write some directions on my blog. And on my blog, it tells you how I made it. If you want some pictorial directions, you can go there and look for that. And that's just to show you how I made the corners of the star blocks. Today, we're not working on any of the points or the for the star blocks. We are working on the middle of the star blocks. If you look carefully at the magazine, if you have the magazine, you can see that I did not paper piece the centers of my blocks. I just made crumb blocks. And the magazine suggests that you're supposed to paper piece them. If you're a paper piecer and want to do that, go for it. But I'm not a paper piecer, so I am just gonna sew together some strips and pieces of the quilt, and we'll cut the pieces out as we need. I am going to do something a little bit different. I need mine for a baby quilt, and I have a couple options here to give someone if they would have a baby girl, but I don't have anything to give if they would have a baby boy. So I was thinking to try to make this a little bit more boyish. Not that the bright colors like this as it is aren't appropriate for a boy or a girl, but I decided, again, this is the 3rd time I'm making the quilt, I just want to do something different. And so that leaves me to thinking that I want to focus more on greens and blues maybe a few yellows, maybe a few oranges, and then lots of teal. So that's what I'm going to be using when I make my quilt. And again, you can use whatever you want when you make yours. So we're going to start out with just sewing some pieces together. What we're trying to do is get pieces that are big enough for 4.5 inches, and we're going to need 9 of those for the quilt. So I like to just take bits and pieces like this, and I like to just sew another piece onto them. I don't have that light on my sewing machine. So I'm just sewing them together randomly. And something else I forgot to do was to turn my iron on. We don't need it quite yet. Well, maybe I better just turn my iron on now, because then I'll have it when I need it. I have a big bucket of scraps here, but a kind blog reader sent me some scraps like this. She doesn't make scrap quilts, and so she had all these strips and scraps, and she gave them to me, and they were already sorted by color. Wasn't that an amazing gift? I was just like head over heels excited when that got sent to me. But some people aren't all into scrappies, but I'm very all into scrappies because I like making things more frugally or cheaply, and having someone else's scraps works great for that. I'm just sewing some pieces together. Here I've got a random triangle piece. I'll probably save that for later. There's some different little colored pieces here. Probably throw those in there. They're kind of tealy. Well, these kind of have a little bit of red on it, and I think I'm going to stay a little bit away from red. Here's a piece that has white, but it has a lot of green in it. I think I'll just team that one up with this. That'll be fine. You can see I'm mostly just feeding some pieces through the machine, not really paying a lot of attention to what's together or how it goes. Initially, when I start, I just add pieces. I don't get too picky about what's going together. There's really a nice mix of scraps in here, which I just love. These are some of my favorite kind of quilts to make, is just scrappy and no rhyme or reason to them and very random. Got a garbage here I'm throwing some things into. I'm just picking and seeing what's here. And that's what I suggest you to do as well when you're working with your scraps. Sometimes I cut before they go in the machine, and sometimes I cut after they're already in the machine. Here I've got some teal. I'm going to sew a piece to that. Basically, we're just kind of building some little pieces until we have bigger pieces. I'm cutting them apart. I've got several comments from viewers saying that they kind of appreciate the casual way that I sew. I think a lot of people think sewing needs to be kind of like hard and rigid. Sometimes we go to too many classes and the instructors, they're saying that, you know, everything has to be totally precise, and to an extent it does need to be completely precise, but on another hand it doesn't need to be either. Just like what I'm sewing now, it doesn't really matter what my seam allowance is. I like it to be 1/4 of an inch or close to that, because when I'm sewing other pieces together and when I'm making a quilt, just because things do unravel a little bit, it's nice to have that 1/4 inch base. But if one ends up being an 1/8 inch or one ends up being a 1/4 inch, it's totally okay. Like here, look at this piece here. You can see the background piece is sneaking out at the side and they weren't perfectly lined up. It's totally okay. Nobody's going to know that in the difference in the seam, and that's sometimes the nature of wonky crumb pieces. I think the biggest thing we always need to remember is that quilting is supposed to be a hobby. Quilting is supposed to be enjoyable. And this is one way for me that I can make it enjoyable, is using little pieces like I do, and not being too worried. Once we get these pieces bigger, we're going to be cutting them. We're going to keep adding pieces and pieces to it until it's a little bit bigger than 4.5 inches. And then we'll cut them down so that they are 4.5 inches. And that's when we need to be a little bit more precise and accurate. We need to be precise with our cutting, and we need to work with pieces that are squared up and nice. But for right now, we don't need to worry too much about that. We can just grab a piece and add it on, and that's basically what I'm doing here right now. I am going to take a quick break though, and I'm going to plug my iron in, and yeah, because I need my iron. I don't know why I kind of didn't put that 2 and 2 together. So I'm going to do that right now. Okay, I'm back. I have my iron plugged in. I don't know if it's hot yet, so I'll just sew a couple more pieces together while I'm making sure that's getting hot. I think this blue-green teal color combo is going to be kind of fun. It's really fun to make quilts that you use everything in, but it's also nice to tone down what you have going on and focus a little bit more on specific colors. It gives the projects a different look. I'm just at my machine here. I have a small travel iron. It's a white Travel Mate. A blog reader gave that to me. She was cleaning out her sewing room and found she didn't use the iron very much, and she just asked me if I wanted it, sent it to me, and I've been very happy with it. I have a bigger ironing board set up over here in my quilting room, and that one allows me to iron bigger things, or if I'm doing a lot of chain piecing. But if I'm just doing something that I'm ironing at the machine, this one works great. I will also be putting some directions on my blog as well, if you're somebody who likes more pictorial type directions, or if you want some place to reference back to that you can find an answer to a question more quickly, you might want to go to my blog. I'll try to remember to link it in the show notes. I'm kind of bad about that, I'll admit it. So as you see, I've just been ironing. It doesn't matter which way these are ironed because they're going to be sewn together randomly. Seams probably aren't going to match. I just iron them all in one direction. So here's some of the pieces that I have. And we're just gradually getting those bigger and bigger. So sometimes what I do now is I might add this piece to that piece, or see what else matches and fits together well. And sometimes I stop and I iron right away. Sometimes I wait for a bit and iron later. It's just pretty random what I do. I don't have a lot of darker blue happening. So, I lost thread. What's going on? Oh, I'm out of bobbin thread, so we'll get that changed here. I was thrifting one day and I was so excited because I saw all of these beautiful filled bobbins, and they're the exact right kind of bobbins for this machine. So I got them home and I loaded them into the machine, and I've been going to use them and just been so excited about them. And then for some reason, I have absolutely no idea why, but the person who donated them must have been emptying all their spools of thread, because whenever I put one of those bobbins in, I can make about like 10 blocks and then I'm out of thread, because the person didn't fill the whole bobbin with all of the same colored thread. So there might be 5 different thread starts all on one single bobbin. So I've been tempted to just throw them away or get rid of them, but I haven't yet, because, you know, I still use them from now and then when I'm feeling a little bit more patient. But today, with all of you watching me sew, is not a good idea to use one of those bobbins, because we don't need to spend all of the screen time changing bobbins. Okay, I'm just doing some trimming here, and this is normally what I do. Remember, we're trying to get this to be 4.5 inches. And this one's getting pretty close, I think. I gotta trim some threads off here. And the pieces can just be all random like this. They don't need to have a rhyme or reason to them. I like to try to get the color distributed well, so that there's some of all of the colors I'm working with in the piece. So I want to get some blue, and I want to get some teal, and I want to get some green into all of the pieces. You can see here, I sewed these 2 pieces together. You can see the background piece is a little longer on the bottom. So I'll just take my scissors and I'll cut that off and throw that in my bucket of garbage. Now when I'm looking at this piece, I can see that there's really not any navy blue on it. So I'm gonna go to the navy blue bag that the blog reader gave me, and I'm gonna pull out a couple pieces here just so I have more blue in the mix. Oh, this is a long piece. Here's another piece. When I'm working on something like this, it's nice to have all these different varieties. So if you have a friend, sometimes it's nice to swap fabric with, or if you go to a thrift store or garage sale or something like that, it's nice to grab some. If they have some fabric packs, it's nice to grab something so that you have a little more variety. Because I'll be honest, I'm not a green girl. I don't have many quilts that have a lot of green in them, so then that means I don't have a lot of green scraps. So if I don't have a lot of green scraps, then it's hard for me to make a scrappy quilt that has green in it. So if I would get some pieces from a friend that I might swap with, or pick some up at a garage sale, then that gives me some of the variety I might be looking for. So here's that piece, and I added just the blue strip to it. So that's kind of changing up the look of it by adding some blue. I'm allowing dark blue to light blue to like a earthy tone blue. Whatever I have can work. And it's okay if I make some of these blocks a little bigger, because if they're bigger, I can just use the trimmed down pieces to make the next one. Oh, and I like to add, oh, here's a guy. I've got a fun little polka dot. I'm going to see if I can add that to one of these pieces. Oh, this one, it'll go. This is Great project if you're a little bit, oh, I don't know. Not picky, like to go with the flow, kind of scatterbrainy kind of project. And that's exactly how I would describe myself. So I should have brought a ruler over here too, because a ruler would be handy to have so I could like lay this on a ruler and see how big I am, because I tend to make my pieces bigger than they actually need to be because, well, that's just me. I always think that, you know, this is 3 inches and it's probably only a different size. You can set these, and one thing you can do with something like this, you might remember, I'm going to first add something on here. I'll add this onto there. Go back and finish the thought I had because I need this piece in order to tell you about it. So I'm going to iron that quick. So you can do these so that they're all square on like this, or you can grab and pick up like a corner, and like here's a corner. You can add a corner to the side, so then that will change this all when it goes into the quilt, and put that on the diagonal. So sometimes I like to add corners like that just to change the look, so all of the pieces aren't just square. It just makes them look a little more wonky. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to add this. Actually, I'm going to cut this in half because I can use it twice. I'm going to add this to the corner. So that's why it's nice if your scrap bucket has not just rectangles and squares and strips, but if it also has some triangles in it, then that allows you to have a different look for some of your blocks if you're making crumb blocks like I'm making. Just measuring here to see what will go with what and what matches up. I've heard some people refer to some of this as first you make 2Zs and then you make 4Zs and then you make 6Zs, and it kind of does work that way a little bit. Okay, so here you can see I added that triangle onto there. There's the triangle this way, and then I'm going to turn this way. You can see how that now that is going to make all of this sit on the diagonal, which is kind of fun. But the whole block doesn't now have to, you can still treat this and add pieces as you normally would. You don't have to add triangles to all 4 sides yet. So I'm just adding a little bit more to it here and there, and then I'll add another triangle in a little bit. Okay, here you can see the top piece is a little narrower than the bottom piece. When that happens, I just come through and take my scissors and trim it off, and everything will be fine. As I said, quilting doesn't need to be stressful, or at this point, this is the perfect kind of sewing if you're just feeling kind of wonky and not feeling precise. There's a style of sewing really for most anyone. I've said before that I'm not an applique girl. And I think one of the reasons I'm not an applique girl is because I don't like the process of being so careful and turning the edges over and then pinning it down and then stitching it in place. I kind of want results faster. It's just my goofy nature. And so being I want results faster, sometimes it's nice for me that I can do something like this, because as you see, I really did little to no prepping because obviously I didn't even have my iron plugged in. So sometimes life just demands what life demands. And mostly for me, I don't have a lot of time to do a lot of prep work. And I have grandkids at my house a lot. I have foster dogs at my house a lot. I need something I can just sit down and go. And projects like this are perfect for me for that very reason. So I'm going to just, oh, I didn't tell you. So if you have a chunk like this, and just cut a strip off it, that works just fine. And that's going to give us, it's kind of like a poisony yellow green, and that's going to give us some variety in the pieces that we have. I like to change things up a little if I can by adding different colors or styles of pieces. Oh, something happened with my thread again. Oh no. I hope I didn't accidentally grab one of those bobbins from that gal. No, I don't think so, because this is the same gold color I'd put in. Okay, let's see. Well, that looks funky. I'm going to just get a different bobbin and see if I can make a different colored one work. I grabbed one I know that I filled. I'm sewing today with my vintage Singer. It's a 1591. It has the separate motor on the outside. This is one of my favorite ever thrift store finds. I bought it along with the chair that matches the cabinet, because this machine isn't a cabinet. And I bought it at the thrift store for $15. It was the machine, the cabinet, and the chair all together. So I was pretty excited about that. I love thrifty finds. If you follow my blog, I'm sure you already know that. I'm a very thrifty girl. Not so much thrifty as far as being cheap, but yeah, I am kind of cheap too. But I'm thrifty more as in I love shopping at thrift stores. Seeing what I can find. Okay, I'm just still adding pieces to stuff. There's no rhyme or reason to what I'm adding or what I'm doing. Today happens to be May 4th of 2023 as I'm filming. We've kind of had we had a really warm spell in early April when it was like too early to plant or do anything. And then things got kind of cold and then we weren't able to plant because we had that spring-like weather very early on. And I thought, oh no, I'm going to be in trouble because I am somebody who I get the itch to garden and then I really just want to garden, whether the weather is appropriate for it or not. So I thought I'm going to be in such trouble because I'm going to be wanting to garden. And it turns out that the weather got cold then and we even got snow. And then I thought, no, it's not the time to garden right now. And now it's starting to get warm again and my garden isn't tilled. And now I'm starting to think, oh, I want to be gardening. So I might go to the nursery here and at least get a couple clematises, because I've got spots where I used to keep morning glories up, but the morning glories have kind of overtaken too much and I'm not happy with the morning glories anymore. So I tried to kill them off last year. They're really hardy and I'm going to try to put clematises in instead. So here's my block. Remember that one we added the corner onto? I'm going to add another corner onto it. I can tell my block is getting kind of big and I'm going to lose some of this corner when I trim it down anyway, but that's okay. I'm just continuing to build and grabbing a piece and using it without really any rhyme or reason. Just making my blocks bigger as I go. I'm noticing that I have limey greens, but I don't have many darker greens. So I'm going to probably stop a second, look in my bag and see if there's anything that's a darker green. If there's not, that's okay. But if there is, maybe I'll try to use some different shades of green. I'm sure someone is going to ask me, and the reason why I needed a baby quilt is not because one of my own kids are pregnant. Nobody right now in the family that I know of is pregnant, so I'm just wanted to clarify that, because last time I said I'll be needing a baby quilt, somebody immediately asked me, "Oh, are one of your kids pregnant?" And it's like, no, not right now. We've got I've got 10 grandkids, and 10 is a good number for right now. And it might be a good number permanently. I have no idea what the plans of the kids are, whether they're going to have more kids or not. I try to stay a little bit out of that. It's hard sometimes. Okay, so I'm got a piece here I'm going to add. It's a little bit longer, and that's okay. I'll trim it down after. After we get a little further. This was kind of a wonky, weird piece I added onto here. And what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to trim a little bit. And I'm thinking that this is going to make a corner piece. So I just trimmed like that and put a triangle in there. It's all good. I'm going to actually cut this piece and add a triangle here, because I kind of want the blocks to look a little bit wonky and not all completely, oh, great time to get the hiccups, completely uniform. So you can kind of get an idea how they're starting to look, kind of pieced together and wonky. That's just fine. I'm going to probably add another strip to the side of this, and then this one will probably be big enough. We'll see how it goes. I always get asked if I have foster dogs. Right now, I don't have any. And it's been, well, I don't want to say it's been nice, because I do really enjoy having them, but it's nice to have a break too. So somewhere there's a happy medium between wanting more and being content with what, well, I don't really ever want more, because I don't want the dogs to be in need. But if there's a dog that needs some help, I certainly am happy to be there to help. Okay, I found a triangle, and I'm going to add it to this piece. This isn't always the fastest to do, because a lot of times you're hunting or searching for a piece or digging, and I actually like that. Some people don't like that aspect of it, but I do. I like to hunt and look and try to find the right color or the right piece for what I'm working on. Okay, let's see if I got one more triangle here. Yeah, this should probably have a green triangle though, just because there's not much green in that piece. So this is what I end up doing. I end up deciding that it needs green, and then so I start digging, and next thing I know, I find some green. I found the tealy green piece right away, or a lime green, I guess, not tealy lime would be the better answer. You don't have to worry about straight of the grain when you do these. Whatever happens, happens. And when they're so wonky like this, the straight of grain kind of concept gets a little bit lost, and that's okay. I would love it if you would leave a comment on the blog posts. I have such a good time reading them. I was reading through and, you know, I'll have one comment that says, I don't know how you deal with scraps. There's no way I could deal with all of that. And then the next comment will be, oh, I love scraps. You're just like me and make scrappy things all the time. So here's one that I'm going to call done for now. It's going to have to be trimmed down. They only have to be 4.5 by 4.5, and I'm sure this is bigger than that. So this is the first block that we'll have done that will go in the center of one of those big star blocks of the quilt. So if you see this picture of the quilt, you can see the star block. It's going to go right in the center right here. So we're just to set that aside for now. And then I'm guessing that this one is probably pretty plain, but I'm guessing that's getting close to 4.5 inches. So let's see what we can do to have that one done. I got 2 pieces here I can sew together. And we'll add this to the edge. And then that one will probably be ready to go. Now this one's all a little bit more wonky. You can kind of see that it needs a lot of trimming. So I'm going to take the scissors and do that. This is kind of a weird process because I have so many different blocks going that are looking or need different things. Because I've got the piece that's in the machine right now that's going to be added to this, and then I'm looking for pieces for this to be added to. Okay. Well, it looks like some blue would look good on this because I've got quite a bit of green going on. Sorry about the lighting. I'm stitching here and sewing in the morning. Well, and it's actually mid-morning. So I've got to the east here, I've got a window, and then I've got this big door. I have the screen or the shade down on it right now, but it's kind of still letting in the wrong kind of light that's really good for shooting videos. Well, now I don't know. Which one should I add it to? Oh, confusing. Because I had several that could actually have this added onto it. Okay, I'm going to cut this off because I have the selvage there and I don't want to add the selvage in because it makes it thick and bulky then. I was telling you about my gardening, and right now I'm very much enjoying a batch of tulips that are blooming. I was so excited last year. I just happened to be in Walmart at the right time at the right place, and they were clearancing out a whole bunch of tulip bulbs, and packs that were normally like $12 or something like that were only $3, and I ended up picking up I think close to like 150 tulip and hyacinth bulbs, and they are blooming right now, and I'm so excited. I'm so glad that I bit the bullet and found those, and now I'm very much enjoying them, and I should be able to enjoy them for many years as tulips keep coming up. So here's where I'm at now. I'm thinking we must be getting close to 4.5 inches if we're not already there. Like I said, I should have a ruler over here and I don't. I'm trying to think if there's one in the drawer. There's not. I'm going to just grab one quick so then I'll know for sure. Whoops, watch out. I think I'm going to just start leaving a ruler here. I have enough that it shouldn't be a problem. So I'm going to look. This is 5 inches. So this one's big enough as it is. So we have 2 done. I'm going to measure this one while we're here. This one's 4.5 inches. We have 3 done. We're doing good. Look at us go. Okay, this one would need probably another strip on it. It's pretty plain. Wonder if we could find a way to jive it up a little bit. Or jazz it up, I guess I probably should say. So this is really how I just keep doing this, and eventually we'll have enough blocks to make our quilt. I'm trying to see what color we need. We actually could use something. Probably this one would be good, because that's that poisony color that I like. I'm going to add some of this to it, so it's partially this and partially that. This is probably not a good project for someone who's kind of scatterbrained like I am or can be. This one is big enough. It doesn't take very long. Of course, baby quilts are small, so they wouldn't take very long, but also some people get like intimidated by doing a project like this because they think that it would be hard to do, or maybe it's just because they think it might be different because they're not used to piecing like this. That can be true too, but it's as you can see, it's not hard. I've got a couple pieces here that I need to keep building. And I should probably start a couple more new ones too. I've lost track now. I don't even know how many we have done. Okay, here's another one done. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 done. And we've just been here about 40 minutes by the looks of things. So we're managing to get a little bit done. This is a nice piece. I like this color. Oh, this must have been the backing for something, because I can see there's a little piece of batting attached to it. So I'll just trim that off, and then I'll add this to the side of this piece. I have to kind of laugh. Sometimes people think that sewing and quilting is a very expensive hobby, and it really can be. But at the other hand, it doesn't have to be super expensive, because my machine's $15. Somebody gave me the bag of scraps. I'm using an iron from someone who gave that to me. This happens to be an Omnigrid ruler that a blog reader gifted me as well. I'm very fortunate and blessed to have people in my life that share things with me, because I really super appreciate all those that have, because it makes, for me, quilting to not be a very expensive venture. I'm super lucky that way. But I think that other people could find a machine at Goodwill or the thrift store. I think other people could find a friend that they could swap fabrics with, or maybe they have a friend who doesn't like piecing with small leftovers. I have a cousin, and she belongs to a guild. I do not belong to a guild. And everybody in the guild just purposely saves their scraps that don't like, the people who don't like to sew with small pieces. They all share their scraps, and they just give them to her because she loves quilting with small pieces. So you just got to find your crowd, and hopefully they can support you, or at least help so that there's not so much junk in the landfill, and little pieces like these precious guys get used up. Okay, I'm kind of at a goofy little spot here that I'm trying to figure out which pieces work and which pieces don't work. I think I need to make more little pieces. Okay, now you can see here that I've got navy blue. I've got this one that has a variety. I've got this one that has white and like a limey green. I've got this one that has more of a Kelly green. So I'm thinking I need something that's more of a bright blue, or maybe possibly even a teal. And so I'm kind of digging through looking to see what I have. Here's a tealy piece. I'm going to probably pull something and everything else is going to fall over, but for now I've got a tealy piece here. I'm going to add the tealy color. As I trim and iron, I like to look at my piece to see what color is missing or what color could be added to make it work a little better or look a little better. Sometimes I like to do things like this too, like here you can see there's that limey yellow green, and I added it down here as well. I like to do that sometimes just to add a little bit to the look. Now that I got this teal piece out, I'm just gonna add teal to this other piece as well. I kind of like to keep the colors going in the same blocks. So sometimes just repeating a same fabric helps make the blocks look more planned or more, I don't know, organized. A little less busyness to look at. This one's done too, so I don't remember. I think that must be number 6. So this one would be 7. This one would be 8. So I need to start one more block, and then we'll have our 9 blocks that we need for this quilt. I'm gonna add, oh, maybe I could add this to that one. Yep, that'll fit there better. But I do need to start another block. And then I think that'll be our 9th one. Okay, I'm just checking out what we have here. Trying to decide where I want this piece to go on. This one's getting close to big enough, I think. We can probably measure it pretty soon. Not quite yet, but pretty soon. Okay, I kind of like the look of this one. It's kind of fun. It is wide enough, but it's not quite long enough. We need one more strip on the side. I think I'm going to come back and put this little narrow strip of this on the side, which is something that I already used in the block, but I think it'll make it look fun. After I'm done with these blocks, I have plans to load a quilt on the quilt frame. I'm working on you may have seen a video that I'm making scrappy flying geese blocks, and that would be, that would not be the quilt I'm working on, the spiderweb string block. I've got a couple videos and things going on all at once right now, and so I get kind of confused on what I'm working on, but It just so happens that I've had grandkids a lot this week and I haven't had much time to film. So I decided I've got time to film right now and I can load that quilt and work on that later. And while I knew it was going to be quiet, I wanted to quick film if I could. So that's why I'm filming now, and that's why I'm a little bit confused, but I have a spiderweb string quilt ready to go on my long arm, and that is a present for my niece for her wedding, which is later this month. Whew, I'm so excited that I have the quilt that far along, that it's ready to go on the machine. I am a machine binder, so once I get the machine off the quilt off the long arm, it shouldn't take me too long to finish it, which I'm very thankful for. If you've not bound by machine before, I do have a video about how I do that as well, so you could check that out if you'd like. Let's think if I've got anything else to tell you about that. I don't think I do. I've been machine binding for a long time. I'm a cross stitcher as well as a quilter, and so when I'm sitting down at night, I prefer to cross stitch because it's hard to squeeze in two hobbies into one life. So if I can machine bind quilts, then I have time to cross stitch instead. And that would be my preference. Okay, and this one's big enough. I'm going to count for sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. So I only have the one in the machine left to do, which is good. This didn't take as long as I actually thought it would. Sometimes I get thinking that things take longer than they do. I'm sure you all can relate. Let's see if I got a scrap in my bucket here. Here's one. I like to not have to clip my threads and just to either run something I'm sewing through the machine, or I like to just run like a thread catcher through so that I can not have to worry about my threads coming undone. Okay, so now my piece is pretty wonky, but that's where I'm at. I think I need it to be a little bigger, so I'm trimming, just scissor trimming this up. And that's totally fine to do when you're doing a block like this. It doesn't have to be precise. You can straighten it up later. I'm going to put a piece on this side. I'm guessing we're probably at about 3.5 inches right now. That way, yes. That way is good. We just need to add a piece along the top. I think I'll just add this one. And then the piece, this one should be done. I will probably trim these all up. I'm guessing I don't need to do a tutorial on trimming, but so here's my piece, the last one. You can see it's kind of wonky that it's got the triangles in the diagonal, but it'll be fun in these wonky star blocks. So I'll be right back. I'll have these trimmed and then I'll show the finished blocks to you. Okay, I am back from the ironing board and I brought my my little design board back that I use sometimes when I use videos. And so you can see this is how the 9 centers of the blocks look. They were all trimmed down so that they are 4.5 inches by 4.5 inches. So if you get that much done, that would be great. And then in the next video, I'll show you how we move on to make the star points of the blocks. And so thanks for joining me here in my sewing room today. I am happy to host you and have you here, and happy that we're starting a new project. It's so exciting, and I love making baby quilts. They're always quick and pretty easy. It just makes my heart happy to warm a new baby into the world. So thanks for joining me, and I will catch you here in a week or so with the next step in this project. Thanks so much. Bye.